Adam, when an employee submits a notice of resignation, what do you do?
So some companies take the philosophy that if an employee gives notice of resignation, they're to make it effective uh, immediately. They don't want to run the risk of that employee causing harm or the employee being checked out and maybe, working for another organization while still on the organization's dime. So they make it effective immediately. Other organizations don't have the option. They need that worker to perform all the way through their final date of employment because they don't have a replacement in place and they need the work to get done. Some employment law considerations are, number one, there is a real concern that the employee could cause harm during that time. Uh, Either due to malicious behavior, like the employee taking data, sending data to a personal email address, printing it out, downloading it to a storage device, etc., or due to the employee being checked out, which is the employee, maybe not performing up to par, causing harm just because the employee's mentally not there. So those are real concerns, and the company should take those into account. On the other side of the coin, where the company does need that employee there, well, I would just recommend that the company take some precautions while that employee is continuing on. If they need the job done, they need the work done, that's fine. I understand that. But they need to also protect the company's data, and also protect against the threat of harm to the company.
And what are some examples of how they would do that?
So, for example, the company doesn't need to give total access to the employee during that notice period. Just provide the employee with whatever it is the employee needs to get his or her job done through the notice period without full access to all the data. So that's one idea. A second idea is maybe you don't need the employee through the whole notice period. Maybe you just need a few more days with the employee to just shorten it as much as possible just to, protect against the threat of harm. Those are just some options. And of course, you always want to take into account the potential for any employment agreement obligations and also setting a precedence for your other employees in terms of how you treat a departing employee who's given their notice of resignation. You don't want people not to give notice. So you do have to kind of weigh that into the balance.
Right.
Um,
Make sure that you have your culture right.
exactly. On the intellectual property side, I imagine there are some implications as well. Can you touch on those?
Yeah. So, and they're similar, I guess, parallel. One of the considerations is that you've got somebody who's been working for your company for, years potentially, and they have all sorts of workarounds and things that they've come up with, right? Ways of doing things, efficiencies, maybe in the case of R&D, it's actually real new development. So you want to make sure that that doesn't just walk out the door. And I don't say that to mean that, something bad is happening. It's just that you don't want it to be lost, right? Like, so you want to make sure there's a good knowledge transfer process. And that's difficult in that situation, but it can be done. So you have good knowledge transfer. And the other one is that you want to also have a discussion about, okay, obligations of confidentiality, ownership of intellectual property, right? The things that they've been working on, that just make sure that they know, and they should know that whatever they've been developing, inventing, whatever it is, belongs to the company, and that they can't be sharing that with their new employer or anybody else.